Welcome back to our quest. Today we're embarking on part 4 of our quest, which is about overcoming. So before we start, let's just evoke the light, come present in your heart, allow your breath to come in, and let the breath go out. Come into coherence with the raising and the falling of your breath. And we ask just now for the light of the Spirit that lives in all of us to be present, to surround us, protect us, and fill us. And we ask that we may let go of anything that we do not need to hold in our consciousness. And we are grateful. Thank you. So I hope by now you've all had a chance to release your ideas and your perceptions of perfectionism, and that you're feeling more accepting and loving to yourself, just the way you are. I know that I love that song by Bruno Mars, and I hope you play it a lot. I love you just the way you are. That's it. I love you just the way you are. Through that lesson, you got a sense that this hierarchy of who is important, who is not important, is very worldly way of looking in our lives. It really has nothing to do with the spiritual reality of who we all are. And that's where we are shifting our perception today, to look at our lives and the world and each other through the lens of an elevated spiritual vision and perception. So today we are going to address something that is inherited in every human being that I know, and this is the energy of fear. Now, have you ever met anybody who said, "Oh, I don't know what fear is"? If you have met somebody like that, can you please introduce them to me? Because I would love to know a human being who has never experienced fear. You see, fear is part of the human condition, and it shows up in our lives as an anticipation of something bad happening. My favorite acronym of the word fear is false expectations appearing real. Science tells us that fear starts from the primitive part of our brain called the amygdala, where it triggers what is called the fight or flight response. It is a reaction of the body to preserve itself, even if the perceived threat is not physical or real. You could be going to work on the subway or getting on a flight or having a meeting, and your body produces adrenaline to prepare you for that fight or flight response. It tries to protect you in the anticipation that something could go very wrong and you have to watch out for yourself. I would like you all to understand how we can all go past that and move into a spiritual, calm, centered energy and presence of our soul and spirit, and as we talked before, elevate our consciousness. That we can teach ourselves that when we are in that fear, anxious mode, first of all, we do not judge it. The key to all this is not judging it, because if you judge it, you deny yourself and you rob yourself of the opportunity to shift it. Is that clear? That's a very powerful thing to understand. Instead of judging it, you can acknowledge it. You can name it. And once you name it, as we say, you can tame it. You have authority over it. So, the minute you find yourself in fear, if we have the mindset at that moment to say, okay, I can feel this fear showing up. It's bubbling up inside of me. On the one hand, I have this fear, and it's okay. It's normal. It's human. On the other hand, I have my God. I have my presence. I have my connection to my inner power. And I can embrace that fear. And I know what to do in the face of fear. See how that is way more empowering. You start to feel that you are in control. You start to claim your power. You start to claim the power of your spiritual self. Let me tell you a story. My mother, Ellie, fought the Second World War as a nurse and was confronted by Nazis. And one day she was in the mountains where they were treating patients. So the Nazis burst in through the door, marched in, and started to shoot with their machine guns. At that moment, as they were shooting with their machine guns, my mother got up and in perfect German, because she spoke perfect German, said, "Put down the guns. You have no right to shoot. We are Red Cross." And she said at that moment, she saw 3 machine guns go down. Now, that's what I call Greek chutzpah. She told me that through all the adversities which she had faced in her life, with finances, with my father, who was unfaithful to her, and she had to make ends meet so many times to raise me and my sister, she always remembered that this was her life force that saved her life and all the people she was with. That energy that got the machine guns to go down, because she told them so, was her life force, and that life force was a reminder for her at all the other times in her life. It's a quality that I have tried to emulate in my own life by knowing and trusting and accessing my life force. I remember I was putting together a television series for PBS on the Greek goddesses, and I was actually writing the script, and I was the only person performing. I had raised part of the money. I had found the venue. Basically, I was the executive producer as well as the actress, as well as the writer. And it would be presented in front of a live audience of about 200 people. I had to memorize all the scripts, and I remember being terrified and very anxious. The closer I got to it, the more I felt anxious about performing it in a live audience. It was bringing up such anxiety and fear inside of me. On the day of the performance, I had one of my best friends who teaches breathing come to give me a session. So she was working on my diaphragm and releasing the rib cage and the diaphragm and getting my breath to finally flow in a nice, easy way. When we are afraid, what do you think we do? We shut off our breath and we shut off the oxygen to our brain. So my friend was relaxing my chest and my rib cage, releasing the diaphragm, and I got very relaxed with my breath. My breath got longer and deeper and slower, and I started to come and be more present in my body. So she said to me this magical phrase, "Darling, let yourself be breathed." Wow. Let myself be breathed. That was it. As I moved into that energy, I have to tell you, I started to feel I was gliding. The fear disappeared. The anxiety disappeared. And I use this as a reference point, remembering that when I relax and I let myself be breathed, I am present in the spirit. So I was performing in front of 200 people in the garden. It was absolutely transcendent. It was seamless. I look at that video now, and I get this incredible higher level of energy that comes in through me that I was able to ride the current. So prayer in this case is an amazing way to let yourself be breathed. Because remember, we've talked about this before. We're actually don't take our breath. Our breath is freely given to us. So, if you stop trying to control it, to do, and allow yourself to be, you're going to be receptive. You're going to move into that energy. When you really think about it, it is so powerful to know that every moment we can return to the power of receiving our breath. So we're being breathed. And that's a very powerful, because throughout our daily lives, we always try to control things. And when we try to make things happen, we are not in a receptive mode, we are more pushing. So if we were in a receptive mode, we would be in a greater flow. So it's interesting how we allow fear in our lives to interfere with our flow, because we really haven't learned to master it. We haven't really learned to release it to the light, to the higher energy. Because all that fear really is an energy that has a thought behind it and an emotion behind it, and then the body follows it. It interferes with our truth and the presence of who we are. And the truth is that we are bigger than our fear. My mother taught us and implanted in us that phrase. Whenever we were afraid, she would say, "You are bigger than your fear." What does that mean? How do we get bigger than our fear? First, we have to understand that fear is your educator. It's just a tool. Our bodies attempt to self-preservation. So we shouldn't let it control us. Rather, we need to learn from it. Secondly, we need to let ourselves be breathed. And we can do that through the power and the tool of prayer. So right now, take a pause, access your connection with Spirit, come into receptivity, and allow yourself to be breathed. Allow yourself to feel how powerful it is that your breath is given to you. So if you're experiencing fear in your life about anything, you can start evoking the spirit of all the extraordinary people in the world who have broken barriers, overcome hardships, and access that place from within, which you can see and act beyond the fear. You can think of well-known people, but you can also find people around you in your everyday life that move past the fear. In anything, in wanting a job, in your relationships, where you have to address someone, where you have to say something, or, my God, in giving birth. I mean, how scary that can be, because you never know what's going to happen when you are in labor and you're giving birth. It all takes courage. It's an amazing process. So our prayer for today will help us move past our fear, get bigger than it, and see the fear dissipating. So let us come into our heart. Let us again evoke the light and come into the presence of the Spirit and the Beloved. Dear Beloved, as I move forward in my journey, I ask to find the courage to move past my fear, knowing that the mighty Spirit that lives in me is so much bigger than my fear. Show me how to transform my fear into trust and my insecurity into confidence. Show me how to transform my scared voice into my sacred voice. Let me walk this path step by step, holding your invisible hand, hearing the inner guidance in me. Although I might not feel it fully or comprehend it, I'm willing to let my higher power take the lead. Show me where the opportunities are and lead me to the support I need so I can see my vision clearly and draw strength from it. I understand that the fear I'm experiencing is produced by the primitive part of my brain that is driven to survive. When I turn to prayer, to meditation, I become quiet and still. And in that space, I feel the presence of love, compassion, joy, because I remember that I don't have to give in to my fear. And as I say these words right now, I feel a release of what binds me and keeps me from moving ahead. I feel a wave of happiness in knowing that I don't have to live in wishful thinking, that I can live in my fearless action. I move from I can't to I am. So as I move forward in taking the next steps, I see the sword of strength that clears my pathway as I move with determination, with trust, with positive energy, which are always available to me. And as I speak these words, I release the illusion that I am walking alone, and I receive the support that shows me in practical, small little ways that I can expand beyond my fear. So, my friends, today, for your practice, I want you to do some deep introspection and ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Write it down. Ask yourself, as you move forward in your life, what actually stops you? What is the fear and what is underneath it? Name it. Whatever it is, take authority over it. And I want you to find your role models, a friend, a colleague, anyone you admire, or even reach out to your tribe. Be an investigative journalist. Be curious. Ask the question. Observe your fear. How do you deal with it? Take notes. Finally, if you're inspired, imagine if you were to write the manual of overcoming fear. We're giving you the assignment to teach the rest of us how to overcome fear. How would you teach your child to overcome fear? Spirit will be with you as you seek to transform your own circumstances and discover the courage to expand beyond your fear and create a fearless life. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And experience what it would really be like to walk this life as a fearless human being. When you become fearless, you expand into an invisible power of spiritual energy. Conjure it up. I'm so excited for you to see you become a fearless human being.